Let's do a little top third, middle third, bottom third, loose ranking of some various topics here. And let's begin with the Patriots offense, which we've been discussing. Where will they rank in your estimation in the NFL? Top, middle, or bottom third?
I think I would say middle third. That's where I look at. Last year, they were 15th in football, somewhere right there around there. I just had it in front of me. Yes, 15th in football. I'm going to say it's a little worse than that. I think it'll be, somewhere between, let's say 16 and 20 to a degree, somewhere in there. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, look, I think middle of the pack makes sense. The question is, how good will the defense be? And ultimately, all that matters is points scored versus points allowed per game.
And they master that.
How they know how to end up having more points than you.
Right.
That's the only thing that matters. All that other stuff doesn't matter. That's one of the basic fundamental truths for Bill Belichick. That's why, he pretends to not care about analytics. We know he deeply does.
Definitely.
But it's all towards the end goal of having more points than the other team. That's how you determine wins and losses,
right?
And they tend to do a pretty good job of having more than that. So I agree with you. I think
I was going to say
middle third.
Oh, yeah, you say middle third too? You say right around there? How many years have we seen them be, the 20th ranked defense, but top 3 or 4 in scoring defense? And I think to your point, you're exactly right. And I think that's, that was a good one by you.
All right, Josh Allen, the Bills quarterback, talking about the fact that he has a new offensive coordinator because Brian Daboll is in New York. Ken Dorsey takes over. Here's Allen on his assessment of Dorsey.
I mean, he's doing a really good job. His call sheet, how he's talking to us before games and in preparation for games, making sure that, the call sheet that he has for whatever quarterback is out there is the plays that we are comfortable with. And I really appreciate how he's doing that, and I know Case and Matt appreciate it the same way. But in terms of just operation, if you look at the game, we were getting plays in really quickly in order to, or able to go to the line of scrimmage and make checks and make different calls. And I think that's sometimes a growing pain that some offensive coordinators don't see. And obviously, I've only been around now too. But that play clock, once it gets to 15, all communications shut off. So you've got to get that play calling quick, and you got to know your next call really just based on what you feel is going to happen during that play. And you got to be quick on your feet, and, I think he's done a really good job in preseason so far.
It is a challenging job, and it does take some time. It takes some reps. You get used to it. Those 3 hours go by pretty damn quickly, and your opportunities to make the right call at the right time, they're not nearly as many as you would think. So where will Ken Dorsey rank as the offensive play caller for the Bills? And I guess more broadly, what will the Bills offense do? Let's do top third, middle third, bottom third for their offense this year with Dorsey calling the plays, not Brian Daboll.
I think it's still top third. I do. It's just the quarterback's too special. They got, pretty good weapons throughout. And then, here's the weird thing with the Bills. Last year they were the number 6th rushing offense in football, right? And I think they were 9th passing, which you wouldn't think that, right? You think, well, no, it's all Josh Allen. It's all Josh Allen. But what I would say is I think it's going to be a little bit more of a dangerous attack this year from this standpoint because Daboll is awesome, so that's not easy to replace. But Aaron Kromer being there as the offensive line coach, I think I talked about this with you yesterday. Maybe it was on my podcast. I can't remember. I talk so much sometimes. I think him as the offensive line coach, guy I was with in Tampa a little bit, he was Sean Payton's offensive line coach there in New Orleans. He's one of the best in the game. And he's going to be a difference maker for that offensive unit to where I don't think they're going to have Josh Allen run for 763 yards like he did last year. That's an amazing stat number when you really think about it. Josh Allen was second on the team in rushing, led the team in average yards per carry. But I think this year you're going to see the running back be more of a factor here with Moss and Singletary and James Cook. So
yes,
that's where I look at it to be a little bit more dangerous, and I certainly think it's a top 10 offense.
It's easy to be, and who said this? I think it was Dick Vermeil at his Hall of Fame induction just a couple of weeks ago. I became a lot smarter coach when I had Marshall Faulk. So the better the players, the better the coach. because the players go out and they just do things that make the coach look good, and they save you from what would be a bad play call because they're just good enough to overcome that. All right, Dolphins have a great array of offensive skill position players. You've got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, Cedric Wilson, Preston Williams, Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds. Where will that group collectively rank? And this AFC East, between the Bills and the Dolphins, has the potential to have some pretty potent offenses. But where do you think that group is going to be?
I'm going to say middle third, but better than it was last year. You know, I do. I mean, I think Tua's going to be better. And, of course, with the weapons they got, I think that's going to be really good. Of course, with, Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and you rattled off the names there. I mean, it's an impressive group. I think the only reason I don't put them in the top third for sure is that I'd like to see the offensive line. As we know, the offensive line was not very good last year. That was definitely in the bottom quarter of the league. So that has to improve. And I think, Mike McDaniel, his ability to run the ball and coach that will make them better. But I'm not sold that their offensive line is just going to be able to dominate that way. And then, so I'm going to say middle third, high middle third, right? Maybe around 12, 13, right around that range.
See, this is where I get myself back in the bad graces of Tua, because yesterday we praised. See, they don't complain when we praise Tua. They only complain when they don't acknowledge when we praise him.
No, that's everybody.
When we praise him, they only complain when we say something bad. I think if you take that group of receivers, running backs, Mike Gesicki at tight end, and you drop them collectively with the Packers.
Night.
Good night. So So if we're just looking at the guys other than the quarterback, this is top third.
Right.
The quarterback is going to potentially drag them down. I hate to say it, and I hope I'm wrong. And again, Tua over the weekend, out early, going through his play sheet, doing the mental reps, the stuff he hadn't done in the past, as Mike McDaniel acknowledged. He could be a lot better. But that's what's holding me back. I'd say middle third as well, but you put him with Aaron Rodgers and they're top third.
Definitely. I mean, yes, agreed. The system, all of that, it's great. But as we talk about all the time, there's going to be games when they play Bill Belichick or Sean McDermott where the system ain't going to be able to just carve everybody up. And now, it's 3rd and 12, and you got to throw a deep out route in the pocket in tight coverage in New England, and there's a 15-mile-per-hour headwind. Are you going to be able to do that? And I think that's what you're saying, and you're right. That's where I'm not sold on that either. So that's a very real thing, and if Tuanon doesn't know that or can't see that, then screw Tuanon. They're blinded by it, and which I always say, I would say screw Tuanon no matter what. But I'm rooting for Tua. I'm rooting against Tuanon.
We want Tua to be good, but we're not doing our jobs if we just blindly say Tua's great and everyone else is nuts. And the Dolphins were nuts to want Tom Brady and nuts
Deshaun
to want
Watson.
Deshaun Watson.
I mean, come on, right?
They've been looking to get rid of Tua for over a year now.
Yeah, 2 years.
And they're the ones who know him better than anyone. We'll see how it goes. But we're rooting for Tua, but we're just being realistic about where he was and where he's going. And it's positive that he was a guy who wasn't putting in the extra time, apparently. Now he is. That won't make things any worse for Tua, that's for sure. Jets defense, where will it rank? Top, middle, bottom, third?
Well, it can only go up because they were horrible last year. So, and I think the talent, if they can stay healthy, can put them in the middle third. It can. And they're going to play hard, and, that's the one thing you love about Robert Saleh. We saw that with the 49ers, and you saw moments of last year. They got some crazy dudes there, and he's got the, AGNB sweatshirt on, all gas, no brakes, right? And that's the style of football play. They've certainly upgraded the talent on the football team, and were hurt by injuries last year. The one thing I'll just say, and I think we'll see the adjustment a little because we saw it a little towards the end of last year, it can't be so Seattle 3 all the time. As we've talked about, that Seattle cover 3 is spread around the NFL, and when that happens, offensive coordinators get to practice against it all the time and play against it all the time, and it just, you can't play that defense and think that you're going to be one of the top 10 defenses in football. So hopefully Salah can throw some curves. But we saw that last night. That's some of those plays you saw. If Ferkser up the sideline, the one that Mariota underthrew, those are Seattle cover 3 beaters. It's, they're in that. We're going to expose their rules a little bit here and make it tough on them. So that'd be my only, trepidation there. But I'll say low middle third this year for the Jets.
Yeah, I think it's going to take some time. And this is the problem. And this is where dysfunctional teams prove their dysfunction. You don't give Robert Saleh enough time to turn it around. There's too much impatience. Woody Johnson decides, I'm falling out of love with this guy because he didn't immediately turn my team into a winner. I'm going to fall in love with someone else. And sometimes it really does. Even though in today's NFL, there's this irrational belief that you can turn things around quickly, and sometimes it happens, but just because it doesn't happen doesn't mean it's never going to happen. And I think if you keep chasing that, firing guys after 2 or 3 years, you're never going to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. But I think these owners tell themselves, I'm just one hire away from, turning. Yeah. I remember when Andy Reid became the coach of the Chiefs. The Chiefs had bottomed out. And he instantly turned them around and instantly made them a year in and year out contender and eventually a Super Bowl winner. Well, Andy Reid isn't going to be available every cycle.
Yeah, that's right. He's special.
And so at some point you just got to I just hope that for the Jets' sake, for their fans' sake, that Woody Johnson is patient and they give this some time and let Robert Saleh work his plan, even if it takes a couple more years.
Yeah, agreed with you there. Agreed. I mean, it seems like things are going in the right direction, but it's a young football team. They've been a little snake bitten by injuries. And as we've said probably every week since we got back here in late July, holy crapola Batman, their schedule is brutal. And you just hope they can steal a few wins to kind of gain that confidence and get that culture going in the right direction.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.